In today's video, I want to share ideas for hand embroidery inspiration with you. Hi, I'm Kim Jamieson-Hirst of Chatterbox Quilts. Now, lots of people are into slow stitching these days, and there's a lot of advantages to it. First off, it's portable, it's inexpensive, and there's lots of fun you can do with creating your own designs and using the stitches you want to use. So today, I want to go over some ideas that can inspire you to create your own hand embroidery designs. Now, of course, you can always get different designs from books like these, for example. So I have several books here, and they all have really nice designs in them. But you may want to make up your own designs, and you can do that really easily. So for example, with my Flourishing Heart pincushion here, bring it over so you can see it, I've just created this myself. And I've used a whole bunch of different simple hand embroidery stitches. And even though I made this into a little pin cushion, or you might call it a shelf sitter, you could create this and put it on a pillow. You could use this on a jacket or something maybe. Possibilities are endless, right? You can do whatever you want with it. And by the way, this design, if you look up above or in the description below, I'll have a link to where you can get this because it is actually a pattern. So you can do lots of things just with simple stitches and coming up with your own designs, and that's kind of fun because it makes it really personal, right? So where can you get some inspiration, or what can you use to create some of your own hand embroidery designs? Well, let me tell you, I've got a few ideas. All right, so one of the things you can use, speaking of books, like I just did, although this isn't an embroidery book, this is a book that has, as it says, easy applique blocks in it. It's by my friend Kay McKenzie, and these are all just different applique blocks. Okay, so you can see them. And there's actually a CD at the back. It has them in 5 different sizes. So that's really nice because you can, make them bigger, smaller, whatever size you want. But what's really interesting about these is the simplicity of the designs. And that makes it perfect to create hand embroidery patterns from. All right, so if, for example, you want to do, let's see here, how about this one? This would be very nice, this rose here. You could take this, print it out in the size you want, then you can draw it onto your fabric. Use a light box if you need to, and then you can decide what stitches you want to put in it, whether you just want to outline it or maybe you want to fill it all in really densely with hand embroidery stitches. So look at applique books for hand embroidery inspiration. Something else that I like to use, and I use this for applique as well, is cookie cutters. All right, now let me just pull this back so you can see the cookie cutters a little easily. With their thin edges here, it's hard to see them. So I just grabbed a few that I have, and I got to be really honest with you, I typically do not use these for cookies. Okay, I use them in my art instead. But I've got a cat, a duck, a little flower, and a butterfly. So again, you could just trace these onto your fabric, and I'm going to talk about tracing tools in just a moment here. And then you can decide how much hand embroidery stitches you want to put on there, and what kind of hand embroidery stitches you want to put on. So I've got these here. I also had another, this is a set actually I got a few years ago from IKEA, and what I thought was fun about this, it's all these forest animals. So, being Canadian, the moose is cool, right? With the kind of mind I have, the squirrel is very appropriate, and there's all kinds of other little ones too. Snail, which is interesting, I think. A fox, a little bear, and a hedgehog. Now, unfortunately, you probably can't get these anymore because I've had them for several years. But any of these would be great because, again, they're fairly simple shapes, and probably the most complex is this one, but even at that, it's not too bad, really. And you can trace on the outside of cookie cutters or even on the inside if you want them a little bit smaller. Tracing on the outside is usually easier, I find. But tracing on the inside, not impossible. So this is a wide variety of different designs all in one package. See if I can get them back in here. It's like a puzzle, getting them back in. We'll do that later. But if you can get cookie cutter sets, you can get seasonal sets too. Christmas ones are great. That would be really fun too, and very appropriate for hand embroidery designs. Now, another thing you may not have thought of is quilting stencils. Again, I have a lot of quilt stencils, and I'll be honest, I don't use them for quilting usually either. I use them for other things. So for example, we have one here. It's got the flower, and it's got all these different leaves and stems and that type of thing. And when you have a design like this, I'm going to show you in just a minute, you don't necessarily have to trace the entire design. You might pick out elements. Maybe you just pick out the flower. Maybe you only pick out part of the flower, and maybe add just a few leaves around it. So you can customize those too. This one here with the little frogs, I should put it this way, with the little frogs, again, if I don't want to do that whole big design, I might just want the frogs out of this one. I thought this was really pretty. This is like a Christmas ornament. You could certainly do a lot with this using hand embroidery stitches. And then I have another flower. Again, you know, maybe you don't want to put all the leaves in. Maybe you just want the flower. Maybe you want a leaf here, one here. So you can just move the stencil as you're tracing it and trace it there. So again, customizing it to what you want to do. All right, so those are some ideas for inspiration. Now I talked about tracing them. Actually, I'll bring this back again. So you can use different pens. You want something that's erasable typically. You could use a pencil, but just be careful because depending on the type of stitches you use, if you use some type of an open stitch around a drawn line, you may see the line through. So something that's going to erase is probably a good idea. Dritz has this dual purpose twin marking pen. One is disappearing ink, and the other one is water soluble. I like to use Frixion pens. I know a lot of people are leery about them. I haven't had any issues with them. However, it's always a good idea to test out any product that you're using to make sure it's going to completely erase the way you hope it will. I like this one, this Frixion Colors, because it's like a marker, so it has a softer tip to it, so it doesn't scratch the fabric, which also if you're going on the fabric and you're kind of, you know, scratching it, sounds weird, but scratching it a bit allows the ink to go more into the fibers too. It might be harder to erase, so I really like these. And they come in all these different colors, so you can see them on pretty much any fabric. So that's what I like to use. And just to show you, give you an example of what one may look like, this is the first flower design I showed you. I'll write this one here. So I drew the flower and I drew part of the stem, but you can see the leaf is off, right? Because I actually moved the leaf over. I didn't want to have this long, you know, this going out that far because I only wanted to put one leaf in. I may stick another leaf down here or something and just attach it. But now I can decide how I want to stitch this. Do I want to just outline it? And if so, I would join, you know, I can just join up the different parts of it. Or do I want to add a whole bunch of extra stitches in the center, you know, in these open areas? So I can do whatever I want, right? So that's the fun of this, right? Is choosing the stitches yourself, deciding what you want to do, what colors you want to use, and even making your own design, right? So that's some ideas for how you can do that. If you are using a quilting stencil, like I did here, you want to put it with kind of the rough, there's kind of a rough side down, so you want to put that down. And then I just drew in through the lines, and it was very easy to trace it. Now, I might have a little bit of Frixion pen on here. I can just hover my iron on here or maybe put a blow dryer on it, not too hot, and it'll take those marks off if I'm really concerned about it. Okay, so those are some ideas for you. I hope you'll try them out. And then once you've got your design, the next step is, of course, is choosing the stitches you want to put on that design. That's coming in another video, so stay tuned for that. But if you're wondering about that flourishing heart design that I had showed you earlier, and you're wanting to create that yourself, don't worry, I got you covered. You can get all the details about that pattern here and purchase it and start stitching today. For more helpful quilting information, be sure to go to my website at www.chatterboxquilts.com.